Long ago, in the land of Egypt, the Israelites lived as slaves under a powerful Pharaoh. They were forced into hard labor, building cities with tired hands and broken spirits. Fear ruled the land, and Pharaoh ordered that every Hebrew baby boy be put to death. But God heard the cries of his people. One mother, driven by faith, hid her baby for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she placed him in a basket and set him among the reeds of the Nile River. That day, Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river. She noticed the basket among the reeds and ordered it to be brought to her. When she opened it and saw the child, her heart was moved with compassion. Though he was a Hebrew child, she chose to spare him. She named him Moses, because he was drawn out of the water. God was already at work. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, educated in power and privilege. Yet in his heart, he knew he belonged to a suffering people. One day, Moses saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Anger overtook him, and he struck the Egyptian down. Fearing for his life, Moses fled into the wilderness. The prince of Egypt became a shepherd. For 40 years, Moses lived as a shepherd in Midian. Far from palaces and power, God shaped his character in obscurity. Leadership was formed through humility. One day, Moses saw a bush on fire that was not consumed. From the flames, God called his name. God revealed himself and commanded Moses to return to Egypt and free his people. Moses doubted, feared, and felt unworthy, but he obeyed. Moses returned to Egypt and stood before Pharaoh. Again and again he spoke God's command, "Let my people go." Pharaoh refused, his heart hardened by pride. God sent signs upon Egypt. Water turned to blood. Darkness covered the land. Sickness and loss followed. Each time Pharaoh promised freedom, and each time he withdrew his word. Moses remained faithful, delivering God's warnings without compromise. At last, the final plague came. Death passed through Egypt, but the homes marked with blood were spared. Broken and afraid, Pharaoh finally agreed to let the people go. Soon after, Pharaoh changed his mind and chased the Israelites with his army. Trapped between the sea and their enemies, the people panicked. But Moses stood firm. At God's command, he raised his staff, and the sea parted. In the wilderness, God called Moses to climb Mount Sinai alone. The people were told to stay back, for God's holiness could not be approached lightly. Moses went alone, not as a hero, but as a mediator between God and the people. On the mountain, God gave Moses the law, guidance meant to shape a free people. The commandments were not chains, but a path to life. While Moses was gone, the people grew impatient. They feared God had abandoned them. They melted their gold and made a calf, worshiping it as their deliverer. They turned away from the God who saved them. God's anger burned against the people for their rebellion. He was ready to destroy them and start anew. But Moses pleaded for mercy. He offered himself rather than abandon the people. God commanded Moses to build the tabernacle. Moses followed every instruction exactly. God's presence returned to dwell among the people by cloud and by fire. Through Moses, God continued to guide and protect his people. When enemies attacked, Moses lifted his hands and Israel prevailed. When the people were hungry, God sent manna from heaven. When they wandered, God led them by cloud and fire. Time and again, God showed His power, and time and again, Moses stood as a faithful leader, bearing the weight of the people. Years later, the people complained again, thirsty and angry. God told Moses to speak to the rock, but in frustration, Moses struck it. Water flowed, but Moses disobeyed God. Because Moses did not honor God before the people, he was told he would not enter the promised land. Even faithful leaders are accountable. From a mountain, God showed Moses the land promised to Israel. Moses had led the people faithfully. Though he would not enter, his mission was complete. Moses was not perfect, but he was obedient. He stood before power, led through fear, prayed for those who failed, and trusted God to the end. God still uses willing hearts to lead others into freedom.